Hello, everyone. It's Shane Conto, your Wasteland reviewer, and welcome to Wasteland Talks, my weekly talk show where I talk about whatever the hell I want. And we're doing a classic review here, and my buddy Adam is back, and we're going to be talking about another classic film. And this is Billy Wilder's Sabrina, starring Humphrey Bogart, Audrey Hepburn, and William Holden. Adam, thank you so much for coming on.
Always great to be here, Shane. Always.
And just to give you all a little bit of background on this film, a playboy becomes interested in the daughter of the family's chauffeur, but it's his more serious brother who would be the better man for her, as IMDb says. So yeah, basically this is two rich brothers kind of it's an interesting situation because if you really set this up, Audrey Hepburn's Sabrina has always been in love with David, played by William Holden, who's a dipshit playboy, who doesn't really,
Playboy Mooch.
yeah, doesn't really contribute much to society except for going around. And basically, he goes in and out of relationships that are strategic for the family business. And his older brother, Linus, played by Humphrey Bogart's the one who runs the business. He's the actual successful one who actually knows what's going on. But you have Audrey Hepburn, Sabrina, who's in love with David, except this is unrequited love. And then she tries to commit suicide in the beginning of this movie and saved
Mm.
by Linus. So like this goes hard real quick. And then she goes up off to Paris to this like cooking school and stuff like that. And of course, somehow comes back quote unquote glowed up. Because it was like
Unrecognizable.
it's like she wasn't Audrey Hepburn to begin with. And
Yeah.
then all of a sudden David's
Her
like,
hair's
who's
slightly different.
this? And
Yeah.
then he's interested. But because of shenanigans and him sitting on a cup of actual glasses, Linus kind of slips in and, is trying to take care of Sabrina for a while. But, Humphrey Bogart here is a little bit smitten and it's get
Mm.
complicated. So
How could you not be?
that's kind of the setup to this movie. But Adam, what are your general thoughts on Sabrina?
Yeah, man, this was the third time I watched it, and I'm glad I recommended it to you because it's just such a great, just kind of one of those old classic films that give me the warm and fuzzies when you watch it. It's like cold, rainy night, and it's just no, it's something to curl up to. Yeah, I love this movie. I think it's spectacular, and it's kind of one of the films that I watched within the last few years that made me realize I kind of like rom coms as long as they're good rom coms, not those traditional type of ones. I mean, this I don't know if you call this a traditional rom com, but it's just so well made. Billy Wilder is was a master director, and there's a lot of good humor in this, as well as everything else. Like I love the dad, the guy Walter Hampton plays Oliver, the father of the
Yeah.
Larrabee boys. He's hilarious. This is old drunk. Just
Yeah.
just some great scenes with him trying to pick an olive out of a glass. It's fantastic stuff. Yeah, man, this movie's brilliant.
It's one of those things where it's like a lot of people talk a lot of crap about rom-coms today, but
Mm,
you don't see some of the best filmmakers in the world going out of their way to make rom-coms today. But that was a completely different
no,
thing back then because like Billy Wilder was one of the best filmmakers around and just casually
mm,
making like Howard Hawks or Billy Wilder casually just making rom-coms was something
yeah,
that was normal back then. And Billy Wilder is one of the sharpest screenwriters ever. Like you
they're
watch one of
very good
his
wit.
movies, so funny, so biting
Mm,
when they need to be. And he just really knows how to set up great characters. And then they cast fantastically. Because I'm a huge William
yeah,
Holden fan. Ever since I think high school when I watched Bridge on the River Kwai for the first
mm,
time, I was sold. And then I'm a huge Sunset Boulevard fan too. And
yeah.
stuff like The Wild Bunch and Network. So like throughout his career, I've been a big fan of his. This was interesting seeing him because this was 4 years after Sunset Boulevard. Which
Yeah,
I wouldn't guess from William Holden because this feels like a super, super young, like blonde hair playboy William Holden. um,
Yeah,
which is a lot of fun. And he's such an ass, and he's so smug about everything.
he's a trust fund baby,
He is
basically.
a he is living that best life on his trust fund baby status. And
Yeah,
then Audrey Hepburn is one of the most charismatic, attractive, and alluring
stunning.
actors in the history of
Yeah,
cinema. Throwing her into anything
absolutely.
is just a spark.
Hmm.
And, whether it's Roman Holiday or, Breakfast at Tiffany's has plenty of other things to cringe at this point in
It
2024.
does.
Like, it's hard not to resist being able to just watch Audrey Hepburn. She's just so
Yeah,
charismatic, and that smile and just everything about her is so charming. And it's like, why wouldn't these two extremely rich dudes be all fawning all over her, despite the fact that she's the daughter
yeah,
of their chauffeur?
yeah,
And like,
exactly.
and
Yep.
this film deals with that classism, where it's just like, oh, David can't possibly be with this daughter. Like, I would not want to disrespect our chauffeur by having my son marry her daughter. I'm like,
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
I like sitting there thinking like disrespecting him, and like
yeah,
that's
yeah,
the perspective that the father Oliver legitimately has. Is his perspective is so warped that it's like be dishonoring my chauffeur if I allowed my filthy rich son to marry his daughter. I'm just like, that sounds like a cop out to me. And then like
a little
Humphrey
bit.
Bogart's one of the greatest actors of all time, movie stars, and just the it's just one of those kinds of things where he just brings that Humphrey Bogart
Yeah, I need to.
personality to the
Yeah,
movie.
I need to kind of explain my relationship with Humphrey Bogart because the
Mhm.
first time I saw him was Casablanca, and I actually don't rate him as an actor in that film. Casablanca,
Mhm.
I really like, but I do think the film hinges a lot more on its ending than the entire film. And I just wasn't. I thought Humphrey Bogart, he's kind of terrible in this. Like he gets to his mark and he whips off his lines at a million miles a minute. But the more I've watched of him, I actually really like him, especially the stuff he's done with Lauren Bacall. In this,
Mhm.
in particular, he's great in Treasure of the Sierra Madre, and he's quickly from actually not liking him, thinking he was overrated. He's creeping up into one of my favorites of all time,
Mhm.
like in top 10 or 20 list if I had to make a list. Um, and he's great, and he's charming, and he's just the casual Humphrey Bogart self, like really stoic, and he just has that tone and manner about him that just makes him lovable. I mean, that's one of the biggest tricks that Billy Wilder pulls off with this film is how he makes you root for the
Mhm.
characters. He makes you and he makes you fall in love with them falling in love. I think because I don't know. I think a lot of it hinges on Audrey Hepburn as her as not just her character, but just her as a person. You see her shine through. That's why she's so great because you see a lot of her personality, her own personality, come through in her performances. She's just adorable, and honestly,
Mhm.
probably the most gorgeous creature that's ever lived, in my opinion. I adore Audrey Hepburn, and she's yeah, like you said, that's how could they not fall in love with her?
And it's the kind of thing where like he is such an alluring presence in this movie. And which is why it's so mind-boggling at
Mm,
the beginning where David doesn't even act like she exists. It's like this woman has been
yeah,
in front of your damn
yeah,
face your whole entire life.
yeah,
And and it's that dynamic where like by the end I was rooting so hard for Linus and Sabrina to get together. And like Humphrey Bogart just
yeah.
has that presence of like, sure, he's hardened and has that mid-Atlantic accent and just
Workaholic,
yeah, it's
not
like that
interested
rough
in
around the
relationships.
edges kind of character, but like he's a mature person and
Mm,
like he
yes,
actually
yeah,
treats her like a woman and like takes her on
yeah.
like actual dates and
Mm,
treats her with respect. And it's just like respect goes a long way. And even like towards the end of the film where he do the inevitable, like this was a scam the whole time, I promise. And it's just like,
yeah.
trying to hide
Yeah,
your
yeah, yeah.
feelings, aren't you, Linus? And it's like that kind of thing where it's like that moment. It doesn't work as well for me in movies today, but like the ending of this movie where it gets so big, convoluted, and like go after her, it just works because how Billy Wilder writes a script, everything just feels so authentic about it. And
It
these
does,
characters feel
absolutely.
real, the performances feel natural. It's like that all felt so right. And
Mm,
them embracing at the end is just like that wonderful exclamation point to like the end of the movie.
yes,
And
yeah.
it's just like I was waiting for it.
There's
It's just like I
there's a lot
want
of payoffs.
this. Hmm.
There's a lot of positive payoffs. I like the humor in this as well. There's a lot of funny stuff going on. Like I did touch on it before with the dad, but there's also a really great moment where after David sits on the glasses and Linus brings in this hammock that he's made because the business is in plastics, basically
Yeah.
manufacturing and whatnot. Because plastics was new back in the 50s, and that's where the money was, right?
Mhm.
Anyway, he's writing a poem to Sabrina because this is after he's kind of already fallen in love after seeing her for 5 minutes. Type of that's how it was in the 50s, I guess. It's just doesn't matter. I won't say that. Just being horny, really. Oh, I'm in love with her. No, you're not. But anyway, he's writing this poem, and he's like, what rhymes with glass? What rhymes with glass? And he's obviously the audience knows the word ass. But Humphrey's like, I don't know. Well, I don't even know what the word he chooses is, but it's just a funny moment because you know what they're getting to. There's just lots of cool little touches like that.
Well, and especially like you probably want to you would not have gotten away with actually saying that in a movie in like the
Hell
50s.
no,
But Billy Wilder's
no,
clever enough to make you know exactly what they're getting
absolutely,
at and make the joke work.
exactly.
And that's where the ability to be subtle as a filmmaker really works because like anybody can show buckets of violence and blood and guts and stuff like that. But like
Yeah.
if you could still get people to react without having to show stuff like that, or if you can get somebody to laugh at a joke because you make allusions to something without having to
Mm.
be like overtly like you got glass in your ass. Um, like I could write a dumbass joke like that, but like
Yeah, yeah,
it's
of
not Billy
course.
Wilder. And
No,
there's
no.
something more clever going on there. And Humphrey Bogart, like I love Casablanca. He is by far not my favorite part of that movie. Claude Rains for
Mhm.
life. Claude Rains is by far the best part of that movie.
Claude is good, man. Claude is good.
So good. But like Humphrey Bogart just has that like he has a very there's nobody like Humphrey Bogart in film. He has a very specific he has that voice, he has that look. That's why he's
Mm.
so great as that hard-boiled like PI, Sham Spade,
Yeah,
like
yeah.
Maltese Falcon and stuff like that. And why
Ex-military
he
stuff.
has a
Yeah.
thing for Hepburns too, because just look at African Queen.
Mm.
Um and
Don't look at African Queen. One of the most overrated movies of all time.
You heard it here first. Adam does not like John Huston's
Nah,
African Queen. Um,
nah.
but it's one of those kinds of things where it's like Humphrey Bogart's charisma and his presence work so well for Linus because he does seem like he's the kind of person that couldn't just be a playboy as much because he
Mm.
doesn't have the looks, he doesn't have that traditional kind of charm, but he does seem like he's the kind of guy that could pull himself together and be accomplished and still be respectable. William Holden is so
Yeah,
great as this like man whore who just throws himself around. And
he's brilliant. He's brilliant.
well, and by the end, there's a lot more going on up here than you probably expected out of him because he knows it.
Yeah, yeah.
And the way he kind of like plays everything towards the end in that big final like boardroom scene is a lot of fun. And he's just like, I know what I know who I am. I know my place in this, and we're gonna do this. So it's like, yeah, I'm
Yeah,
gonna marry this rich heiress. You know, I'll get divorced in a couple
yeah,
years, whatever. It's like, my deal here. And this film has Audrey Hepburn being Audrey Hepburn, and she is insanely charming. And just, I
mm.
also appreciate a film like this because, like, I don't think a lot of comedies today would dare touch, there's suicide, potential suicide within the first like 15 minutes of
Yeah,
this movie. And I
yeah,
feel like
really quick.
a lot of comedic writers would be afraid to touch that with a 10-foot pole without this turning into a very like melodramatic kind of movie after that. But like
Mm.
this film's okay with like casually like, yeah, shit like this happens. And it's similar to like The Apartment. Billy Wilder just knows how to incorporate those kinds of things into a film, still be funny, but still feel human. Because this film feels like three people figuring stuff out and, varying degrees of good humanity among them. One of them, not so much good humanity, but, he knows his
Yeah,
limitations.
it is a
But,
hell of a connection for him as a filmmaker to make. Like in, they're actually my two favorite movies of Billy Wilder's, just The Apartment and Sabrina. But
mhm,
how he conveys a woman's despair at losing her man is that she has to try and kill herself. It's a kind of a strange story device, plot device to use to do that. Like, there's got to be other ways. I don't know if that feels a little bit sexist to me, or I don't know what that's saying. To be
feel
perfectly
very,
honest,
very much of the time kind of thing. Where it's just like,
yeah,
oh,
yeah.
this man doesn't love me the way I need him to. Well, time to
My
go.
wife, my life's not worth living. Yeah, yeah. It's. Yeah, I don't know. I'd probably need to delve back and read more interviews with Billy Wilder or some special features and stuff. But yeah, I'd like to know what the meaning is behind those things.
Mhm. Well, and like there's certain things that like I remember watching the Philadelphia story for the first time and watching Katharine Hepburn
Mm,
getting punched in the face within the first 2 minutes, and I'm just like, what? It is
yeah,
like
yeah,
it was certainly a different time. And the funniest part was how
yeah,
she reacted to the punch in the face. Was just like sitting on the ground like, and it's just
yeah,
like,
yeah.
what?
It's funny. Sean Connery loved that part. I heard.
Yep, I'm sure he did. I'm sure he got a nice chuckle out of it. But for all, I just think this is a fantastic time. Such great writing,
Mm,
so funny. Just really charismatic actors bringing the most out of these
yeah,
characters. And this is a fun whirlwind of a rich man falls in love with a poor woman kind of story. And
yeah.
like it's that interesting kind of thing too, where it's just like obviously I don't know any kind of experiences like this. I didn't grow up with a chauffeur. But just imagining like growing up with like this is your chauffeur's daughter. Oh, barely noticing
Mm,
her until all of a sudden she's all Audrey Hepburn and it's just like
yeah,
and then
yeah.
also magically she comes back from Paris and then you're like, "Oh my god, who's this?" And it's just like
Now
the
she's a woman.
same
Yeah.
woman before
That
she
that
left.
whole scene is really cute, actually. That whole when he picks her up at the train station, such an adorable scene to watch as he's squirming trying to figure out who she is and drives her
Making
into
an
his own
ass of himself,
house.
and she's just like eating it
Yeah,
all up, knowing 100% who she is, who he is.
yeah,
Her being the knowing one in the situation, and him being an idiot, just fumbling over
yeah.
himself, trying to figure it out. It's such a great
I, I
scene.
love I love the fact that she's named her dog David as well. He goes, "Oh, that's my name." That's so.
Yeah, it's like,
Yeah,
I
oh, really?
know.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, it's good.
It's like we named the
Yeah,
monkey Jack kind of moment.
yeah.
Um, I guess Adam, do you have anything else you wanted to add about Sabrina?
I think we've covered a lot, to be honest. It's just an adorable movie. Like if you are looking to go back and watch some good old movies, I'd definitely start here. It's one of those movies, old movies that make you think of what old movies should do to you when you watch them, as in they just make you feel good. They just make you feel good, and that's what Sabrina does for sure. Um, yeah, it's one of those. It's just a great film.
Yeah, it's a classy, just like the set designs, the office, all that kind of stuff. It just feels like that big kind of rom-com. And yeah, if you're gonna go back and try to watch some older film, Billy Wilder's a great place to start. He has
Absolutely,
plenty of classics. But those
lots.
are our thoughts on Sabrina on this classic review. But Adam, thank you so much for coming on and chatting movies with me.
Yeah, great again. Thanks for having me. Thanks for indulging.
Absolutely. And thank all of you out there for always tuning in, supporting your Wasteland review.